Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Kama Speaks. And today, my guest is Roland Manny, and I'm excited because he's a transformational and motivational speaker, which is something we all need. We all need to be transformed by the renewing of our minds. And I want to welcome to my guest, Roland. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, Kama, thank you so much for having me, and it's just a pleasure to be part of your program. And I'm just looking forward to maybe share some information and change just one person's life is my goal every time I speak. And hopefully tonight, between you and I, we can make a difference for somebody. So thank you for having me.
Oh, you are welcome. You are welcome. And before I give you the floor, I just want to read your bio. Roland Manning is a life transformation speaker as well as a motivational speaker. His passion and purpose is to help people see beyond their limitations. He is mentored by Les Brown and is one of his platinum speakers. Roland is also a part of the Black Belt Speakers Program and is coached by Dr. Ruben, who he considers to be a top teacher in the industry. He is also a Herbalife member and focuses on helping people achieve their ideal health goals. He and his wife are the owners of Dublin Nutrition Club in Dublin, Ohio, where they are creating a community of like-minded people who are committed to making a change in their lives. He is also a former correctional officer and had served 10 years before leaving to follow his passion in life. Roland is married to Julie and is the dad to his 21-year-old daughter, Tori, and Pepe to her 5-year-old daughter, Savannah. He lived in Massachusetts his entire life before moving to Dublin, Ohio 2 years ago. And I'm really pleased to announce because almost every show, I'll just tell you, every show I talk about Les Brown. Les Brown is like my ultimate favorite. He's in my CD right now, and he is the reason why I started this show. But I want to thank you so much for being on my show again, and I'm going to give you the floor. Give us a little more in depth about who you are.
Oh, great, Kama. Well, thank you so much. What I'd like to talk tonight about is making a tough decision, because sometimes in life, we always have to make a tough decision and we don't always know what to do. See, back when I was a little kid, we all have dreams and desires and things when we grow up. There's always something we want to become. And for me, I wanted to become a state trooper in Massachusetts. And I focused all my energy on becoming a state trooper. And that's all I talked about. And that's like as we're growing up as kids, nobody can steal our dreams. See, we don't know what our limitations are when we're kids. So we act like we don't have any. And I just continued to pursue that goal. And I just stayed focused on what I wanted to do. And that was to become a Massachusetts state trooper. Well, I was 2 weeks from getting in, 2 weeks from reaching my dream. And I could feel it. I could taste it. I used to practice saying, my name's Roland Manny. I'm a Massachusetts state trooper. And then because somebody lied about me, they stole my dream. Because somebody was jealous of me, they stole my dream. And that happened so many times. You know, it was Napoleon Hill that said, if you must speak ill of somebody, do not speak it, but instead write it on the sand on the water's edge so you don't hurt somebody. And at that point, I didn't know what I was going to do. And at the meantime, while waiting to get the job, I took a job as a prison guard or correctional officer, as a stepping stone to the next level, never intending to stay there. And that's what happens so many times in life. We get distracted from our goal and we take something temporary. And sometimes we have even settled for a relationship until the right one comes along. And we've heard it so many times, we settle for that. And that's what I did. I took that job. It was supposed to be 6 months. And then there was a delay in the state police, and it was a year. And then it was 2 years. And I felt like I just kept getting sentenced longer and longer to a job that I hated, to a position I didn't want to be in. And when they finally told me you weren't going to be a state trooper, I felt like I had been sentenced to a life in prison, like a life sentence, because my dream was gone. And I think so many times we become comfortable, we conform, we figure that's just the way it is. And we don't live our dreams anymore. We just fit in. You know, we just want to become normal. Like we just want to become like everybody else. And that's what happened with me, you know, and it's just, but I hated it. So many times in life, we just hate what we're doing, but we just can't get out of our own way. And we blame circumstances, we blame events, we blame everybody else but ourselves. And I just kept working. Yeah, I was working there for almost 10 years, every day, dreading it, driving to a job that I hate. And so many times in life, that's what we do, right? We drive it's not necessarily a prison that people drive to, but they drive to an office, a cubicle, some people that they hate working with the people they're with. They hate driving there every day. And the only difference between the cubicle and the cell is the people that work in the cubicle can go home every day. The people that work in the cell, live in the cell, they have to stay there. You know, and I think that's what we do. And I knew I didn't want to stay there, but I didn't know how to get out. Yes. And then I got divorced when my daughter, Tori, was 3 years old. And I kept working at the prison. When she was born, I said, well, see, here's what we do. We make excuses to try to justify why we want to stay in a job that we hate or a position that we're in, even relationships. Yeah. And I said, well, at least, you know, now I'll do it for my daughter, Tori, when she was born. You know, now I'll come to a job I hate because of her. And that really lasted about 3 months. And I was like, you know something, I can't, this isn't going to work. That's not going to fulfill what I wanted to do. Right. So I kept going to work. I did the best I could. And then Christmas, they told me I couldn't have Christmas night off with my daughter. And I said, it's my first Christmas without her, Saj. I need to have Christmas night off. And he said, no, you either work Christmas, you either work Christmas night and have the day off. I said, no, I'll work 7 to 3 because see, I was picking her up at 3:30 and I wanted to have Christmas with my daughter. I didn't want to sit home and think about it. And I didn't want to work 3 to 11 because I was picking her up at 3:30. And he said, you either work 3 to 11 or you don't work at all. And see, so many times our bosses, people that they control us. But we got to look at that as sometimes we got to look at that as that's the door. That's the message. That's the thing that's going to get us out. But we get so focused on the situation we're in, we don't look at the opportunity. So at that moment, so at that moment, I looked at him and I said, just put me down 3 to 11. And he said, look at you. I said, look at me what? He said, you look like an inmate. I said, what was that? He said, you're acting like an inmate. And there was about 8 of my friends in this unit with me. And I said, don't ever insult me in front of my friends. And he said, if you don't like it, leave. So I walked out of the office and he came in and he said to me, what's your problem? I said, you. I said, you're my problem. The inmates are my problem. The staff is my problem. And I said, you know what, Bob? No one's going to tell me how to control my life again. No one's going to tell me that I can't have time off with my family. And I made a tough decision. See, here's what we got to realize is a tough decision is a tough decision, not because we don't know the answer. A tough decision is a tough decision because we do know the answer, but we don't know, we don't have the courage to do what we know. So we do what we feel and we stay where we're at. And I made the decision and it was a tough decision because I was making $60,000 a year back in 1999, job security, because there's always going to be inmates. But I had to make up my mind that I had to stop letting other people control my life. Yes. So I walked, you know, it's so funny, Kama, because so many times we blame circumstances, we blame events, we blame things in the past, we blame other people, but we put ourselves in that position. I drove myself to that job every day. I put myself in the position for my boss to tell me I couldn't have Christmas off. And so many times we do that. And then we just become part of the system. We just conform to what everybody wants us to do. And we just, that's just the way it is. And I was sharing with you earlier about that movie, Shawshank Redemption. Mm-hmm. It's a great movie. You have to watch the movie. And you'll watch it. It's one of Les Brown's favorites. So that you'll have to watch it. And there's a part of the movie when there's an inmate that Brooks has been in there for 50 years. He's been inside the wall for 50 years. And they were going to let him go. He wrapped up his sentence. And he actually had a knife to his friend's throat that he had been friends with for years in the prison. And he was willing to kill his friend. Why? Because he wanted to stay on the inside. Why? Because he was afraid of going out and try something new. He was institutionalized. And they were discussing it amongst the inmates. And one inmate said to this Andy said to Red, who had been an inmate for 20 years, he said, what happened to him? Another inmate said he lost his mind. And he said, no, he didn't lose his mind. You see, he's institutionalized. And he said, what do you mean by that, institutionalized? He said, these walls are funny. He said, when guys come in, at first they hate him. Over time, they get used to him. And then there's long enough so they depend on him. And if we look at it, how many times have we seen relationships and we see people get out of it and they go right back to it? And we go, how could they go back? Right. How could they go back? It's because they get used to it, right? And you hear so many people, you say, how can you be back with that person? It's because they get used to it. And they're afraid to make the tough decision. I was talking to Dr. Ruben West, And he was telling me a story about one of his friends that had been married for 12 years, and she was miserable for all 12 years. And he said, well, why did you stay in the relationship? She said, because I was afraid to make the decision and say no, because I was afraid when they first got married, because they were afraid of what people were going to think. And how many people do we know like that? We live our lives with, I love my analogy is like we live our lives in a prison whose walls are built by the opinions and our past memories of other people. Yes. And we surround ourselves with that, and we have to get out. And we don't know what the future is going to bring. We don't know what's ahead of us. But I do know this, Tom. If I would have stayed at that prison one more day, it wouldn't have been a good life for me.
Right.
But we have to take the chance. And it opens up so many doors. I never expected to be a speaker. I wouldn't speak in front of anybody. Mm-hmm. When I was working at the prison, because growing up I had some bad experiences, I felt like my voice didn't matter. I felt like I didn't count. And the only people I would talk in front of, maybe you felt like that, or people that felt like that, because you don't feel like people care about what you have to say. Right. And it's like so you close up, because that's who you become. And really the only people I would talk to were the inmates, because they had to pay attention to me. I had their undivided attention, but I can't lock people up. I can lock them up, and then I got involved with, and then I got involved with Herbalife, and I started to build my business part-time when I was still working at the prison. And one of the people over there said, you have to get up and speak in front of people. And I said, I don't do that. And she said, Roland, I wouldn't do it. And she said, Roland, you have to do it. And I said, I'm not doing it. I can't talk in front of people. She said, you know something? If you want to grow and you want to become more, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Yes. And and so many times we're afraid to do that. Why? Because we're afraid of what other people were going to think. For me, it was based on my past. I love the saying that most people crucify themselves between two thieves: regrets and memories of yesterday, and fear of tomorrow. And then we don't move, and we just die there. Yes. And we all know people like that. And I was one of them. So I got up and I spoke in front of 300 people, and they liked me. I was like, oh, this is cool. They liked me. I was so excited, because I felt like, oh, I found something I could do. Maybe people do want to listen. So then so then I kept doing it more and more. And then my goal was to become a motivational speaker. I love listening to Les Brown since 1995, and Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. But Les has always been he's like, oh, I just love the guy. Yeah. So then time went on. I had a couple of setbacks with my Herbalife business. So I had to do something else. But my goal, my mind was always, Herbalife and speaking. And then I got married to Julie, and she knew my desire. She knew how much I love listening to Les and how I'd like to be part of that. So this is the coolest thing. I went and see Les. He was in Columbus, and there was less than 100 of us there. And I came home. I was so excited. And I said to Julie, I said, I want to do what he does. Yes. Maybe 2 months went by, and she said, Roland, this was in November. And she said, Roland, if the phone rings, answer the call. See, sometimes we have to answer the call. The phone rang. I said, hello, is this Roland? I said, yes, it is. He said, this is Les Brown. Woo. I said, what? This is Les Brown. I said, no way. And when I found out later, was my wife actually called Les and emailed him until he called me. Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, because awesome. Yeah, and something, I didn't think I could do it, but sometimes it takes our belief and somebody else's belief in us until our belief can kick in. So I met with Les. Yep, I met with Les, and that's when I met Ruben. Wow. So things always have a way to work out, and now I'm following my dream. I love helping people, making a difference in people's lives, and it's so exciting. And to be on a call like this, my wife just said to me, she goes, can you imagine when you were growing up, you didn't think anybody wanted to listen, and now people want you to talk. How great is that? Yes. So it's just exciting. It's exciting. Yes, I'm just getting excited over here. I'm just letting you speak because you're definitely preaching to the choir. I was the same type. I didn't
feel like I had a voice. I was actually in a 12-year relationship, marriage, and I did not have a voice. Anything I had to say was shut down. And I realized I have something that people want to hear. Yes. And I go to Toastmasters, and they give you 10 top speaking tips. And one of them is, know that you have something that people want to hear. Your story is awesome. I mean, you worked for the state and you said you had security, but at the same time, you didn't want to be talked down to, which nobody should. You didn't want to be treated a certain way, which to me, we're working together. You may be my superior, but that doesn't mean that you treat me or a different way just because you're making more money or your title is higher than mine on this piece of paper. But you went out and you pursued your passion, and you have such a great support. I mean, how many people can really say that their spouse can support them? Because I know many people that their spouse is like, nope, you stay at work. I don't care how it works out, but you're going to stay here, do that, and I'm not going to support your dream. How does that feel, just knowing that you have a wife that's saying, you know what, honey, go and do this? Matter of fact, she picked up the phone and said, this is going to happen. How did that make you feel on the inside?
Oh, it made me feel so good because, see, I had been married in the past before, and she shot down every dream I had. She shot down every goal I had. So I didn't think I'd ever get that. And when you have somebody that supports you, and they don't have to have the same dream as you, but all they have to do is support what you do and believe in you, yes, you become unstoppable. Because there are times when you're going to become frustrated. There are times when you're thinking, I'm not good enough. I don't have the skills. I don't have the talent. I don't have the abilities. But when somebody else is telling you, you have what it takes and is willing to take that step and say, Les is going to call. I'm going to keep doing this until Les calls you. Yes. And because of that, because of the determination and her belief in me, because, sometimes I would have never done that because I wouldn't have thought anybody wanted to listen to what I had to say. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So when she did that, that was like, oh my gosh, this is to have that feeling and to have that support. There's nothing like it. There's no stopping me. And that gave me the opportunity to meet Les and become friends with Les. And even, I think, as important to that is meeting Ruben, because by her opening that door for me, by me focusing on that guy, my sergeant telling me to leave, which opened doors, I thank him for that today, because I wouldn't be talking to you. I wouldn't have met any of these people, So to have somebody in your corner, oh, it's crazy.
Yeah, it means everything. I will tell you, I missed my opportunity to talk to Les Brown. We actually exchanged numbers. I met him through another platinum, the White Pledger, and he came to our city. He spoke, didn't know who Les Brown was. Those that are watching, that's watched this more than once, they know that I didn't know who he was until I actually went into the White's conference. And when I heard this man speak, I looked at him and I said to myself, I'm going to be where he is. I was just blown away that someone can speak as well as he does and be as effective. And it was so simple. It wasn't something that was over my head. Afterwards, we exchanged numbers. I told him, I said, I want to speak. So he gave me his number. I gave him my number. I never reached out. And to this day, I'm like, why didn't you reach out? But I still believe that I'll have that chance to be able to speak to him. But since then, I've been following my dream of being a speaker, but nobody was on my side, but it's beautiful to have somebody on your side to push. But I want to go back to something.
Okay.
You talked about at Christmas time, you had to make a choice of either spending it working or with your daughter. And that's something that a lot of people think that they don't have a choice, because they feel like that job over there is all that they're going to ever amount to, or all that they're going to have. How do you encourage somebody that's in that situation? They're like, you know what, I want to spend time with my family, but they're telling me they're going to fire me if I let go. I mean, if I don't come in, and somebody comes to you and say, what do I do in that situation? Now that you're on the outside looking in, because you've been there, done that, what is something that you would tell that person?
I would tell them to make sure they have something lined up. You can't just give up. You have to have something else planned. You have to have, because if you don't, then you're going to go from that to nothing. So like I was building my Herbalife business. So I think what they got to do is focus and say, something, when is enough? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So many times we see people arguing at work. They have that they hang around the water fountain. I call it a bubbler in Massachusetts. In Ohio, they call it a water fountain. So
Right.
and they complain. They complain about their coworkers. They complain about the boss that might not even be in the office yet that day. They complain about the work they haven't even started. And all they do is complain about how they hate their job.
Mhm.
And then they get laid off. And then there's a downsizing. Then they get let go in common. What do? Instead of looking for other opportunities, they get together with the same people that they complained about inside, and they figure out a way to get back in. They're willing to take a cut in pay. They're willing to change their hours. They're willing to sacrifice time from their family.
Mhm.
So that I can see how that happens, because when I worked in the prison, I would be at admissions and I'd be in discharge at times. So I'd see inmates come in and inmates go out. And there were some inmates that would go out and I'd never see them again. I'd see other inmates that would go out and come back in, even after being in the prison system for years. And what I found was the ones that left, they stopped hanging around the people that got them there. The ones that left, they picked a new direction. The ones that left went to a completely new city and started over. The ones that came back went to the same environment that they were in before, and the same people they hung around with before. And guess what got them right back to where they didn't want to be. And they just kept coming back. And I think that's what happens with so many people. They're afraid to open their eyes. So they look what they did to me, instead of saying, well, what's possible for me? So I think what they're going to do is see if when they know enough is enough,
Yes.
they'll make the decision.
And before I continue on, if you're watching and you want to ask a question, there should be a button there on YouTube where you can ask a question. So feel free, but you have to make sure you are logged into your Google Plus and logged into your YouTube. Normally, if you're logged into both, you are able to ask some questions. Okay. Your message in the beginning kind of got me a little teary-eyed, to be honest with you, because you just encouraged me to push further and harder. Because what I tell people is that this helps me. When I talk to people such as yourself, it helps me too, because I have my struggles. I have things I'm going through, and sometimes I just need to hear that message and that word. That's why I just let you speak. And what I put on here, I was taking notes. I put, go harder. The problem with some of us is that we don't want to go harder. We're so institutionalized that we stay stuck into that same rut, and we don't know what to do. And as Roland said, you have to have a backup plan. I was reading, it's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And one thing he mentioned was join an MLM. A lot of people are against network marketing, but trust me, that will get you somewhere where you'll be surprised where it gets you, and that'll give you your push. If you find something you love to do, that'll help you be able to transform over. And you say you're a transformational speaker. What are some other things that you talk about to help transform someone's mind? Because that's where it starts at, is their mind. What are some things that you speak about to help transform someone's mind that says it's time for change?
I talk about being uncommon. I'm talking about not blending in, not fitting in like everybody else. You know, it says the pursuit of normality is the ultimate sacrifice of potential. So many times we've been to funerals, or we've been to different situations, and we say they had so much potential. They take their potential to the grave with them because they want to be normal. They want to be like everybody else. I talk about being uncommon. I talk about Muhammad Ali saying it's the punch you don't see coming that knocks you out. See, in life, we're going to either taking a hit, you've been hit, or there's one coming, and there's no denying it. And when you want to be uncommon, that's like sticking your chin out, you know. Right. And it happens to the best of us. You know, I remember in 2009, September 21st, 2009, I was at the New England Patriots Gillette Stadium watching a game, and it was a beautiful day. Everything was going great. And I received a text message. And before I even responded to the text message, I knew something wasn't right. And I think we've all had that, right? A text message, an email, a knock on the door, a phone call. And we knew something wasn't right.
Right.
And the text message came from my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, who was brought up in a good Christian family. My 15-year-old daughter, Tori, who was taught right from wrong and to follow the right people that are going to guide in the direction. My 15-year-old daughter, Tori, who was between her freshman year and sophomore year in high school, was already being talked about by college basketball scouts.
Wow.
And the text message said, "Hey, Dad." And I said, "What's up to her?" Her name's Tori. And I said, "What's up to her?" She said, "Dad, I'm pregnant." I'm pregnant. It's the punch. I didn't see it coming. My 15-year-old daughter, Tori, I thought I had everything going on. I was a good parent. And it was a punch I didn't see coming. So Muhammad Ali talks about that. You're going to get hit. Or, and it might not be that. It might be like my brother Robert, who after 13 years in corporate America, spending 60, 70, 80 hours a week working for this company, building up, he got laid off. And
Wow.
I said, Rob, I said, Robert, how long did it take him to lay you off? He said, about 12 seconds. I said, look at your life. You're not worth a second a year. And so I talk about that. Yeah, so the punch of corporate America, or my buddy's 15-year-old son, number 1% athlete, soccer player in the country. My Jeff gets a phone call at 2:00 in the morning, Karma, from the police department. They said, we have your son. And Jeff said, no, sir, my son's in bed sleeping. He said, no, we have your son. And he said, no, my son's in bed sleeping. And the police officer said it again. And Jeff told me, hey, Roland, just to prove I'm wrong, I threw the phone down. I ran upstairs. I opened the door. I turned on Zach's light, and he wasn't there. And he said, wow. I came back downstairs. I picked up the phone. And I said, sir, he's not in his room. He said, that's what we've been trying to tell you. See, when you were sleeping, he stole your car. We found him on the side of the road. He had OD'd on heroin, and we had to resuscitate him twice.
Wow.
See, so we're getting hit with the addiction. He's getting hit with that punch. Or maybe my wife, Julie, who thought she was perfectly healthy, and she went for a physical, and a few days later, they call her up, and she said hello, and they gave her the 3 words, Karma, that nobody ever wants to hear. You have cancer. Wow. It's the punch he didn't see coming. So in life, we're all going to take a hit, but it's how we respond.
Yes.
Because we have a setback, we don't have to live in the setback. Most people have a setback and they live there. And I remember Karma being at the stadium, and there was 50,000 people. I felt like I was by myself, and I'm saying, I was flat on my back, knocked to the canvas of life, going, who's going to pay for this? My daughter's life is ruined. What are people going to say about me? Mm-hmm. And life is so much like a boxing match. If you look at your life and you look at a boxing match, the same characters are there. You have the opponent, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's corporate America, whether it's competition that's trying to knock you out. When you're trying to get off the canvas, they're trying to knock you out again. And then you get the referee that's trying to count you out. But most of the times we count ourselves out, like I did. How's she going to pay for? Who's going to pay for this? And then we're not smart enough. We're not good enough. So we start counting ourselves out.
Right.
You get the people in the stands. They're there to see a fight, Karma, and it's sad because all they want to do is see somebody get knocked out. They don't care who it is.
That's so true.
Yeah, they want to see somebody get knocked out, and it's sad because most of the time they want to see you get knocked out, and a lot of times the people in the stands are your family and your friends, the ones that you think are there for you. But all they want to do is see somebody get knocked out. Wow. And a lot of times it's going to be you. But what I found was the most important person in that fight, the most important person at that ring is the trainer, because when a boxer's getting ready for a fight, he doesn't go up to a trainer that's going to tell him, you're a loser. You're not going to make it. Why are you wasting your time? That guy's too good. That he says, no, we're going to train, whether it's 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 15, whatever it takes. You have a champion in you. You can win this fight. And that's the guy that's in your corner. So when you're flat on your back, when life knocks you down, that's who's in your corner. And for me, that was my daughter, my 15-year-old daughter, saying, Dad, I need you to get up. I don't need you when things are good. I need you to get off the canvas. I'm pregnant. I need you. And there's people in life that other people have to look at their life and say, who's in your corner? What family member, what friend, what person, what business associated, what person you haven't even met yet, that if you stayed knocked down on the canvas of life, they're going to lose out. You're going to gyp them because they put everything they had into you. And because you weren't strong enough to get off the canvas, you didn't have the courage, they're going to miss out. And I had to make a decision at that point because Muhammad Ali said the canvas is no place for a champion. I said, hey, Roland, you're either going to be a champion and get off the mat, or you're going to be a chump and stay down. And that's what I tell people. You got to either be a champion or a chump. You got to make the decision.
Wow. Wow. That's powerful. Well, it's about that time to wrap up. Oh my gosh, time went by so quickly. Before I let you go, I want you to leave one more something, maybe a quick little something you want to, positive message you want to leave with the audience. And then also let us know how we can get in contact with you and what you're doing to help someone, whether it's through your overall life or your speaking and your social media information.
Well, what I like to do is, we got to be uncommon. We got to be a little bit crazy in this world. We can't be like everybody else. And one of my favorite quotes, and it's by Steve Jobs. I'll leave you with the quote, and then I'll tell you how you can meet me. And I'm sure you heard the quote. Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the one thing you can't do is ignore them because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see us as the crazy ones, we see genius because the people who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones who do. And it's the people that are on the call, the people like you, the people like me, the people that are willing to make changes in their lives. People might think they're crazy, but they're the geniuses because, Karma, I'm telling you, we are going to change the world. I can guarantee it. So that's my story and I'm sticking with it. So yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do we get in contact with you?
Yeah. Oh, if they want to contact me, they can either go to my Facebook page, which is Roland Manny. They can call me they can reach out to me through my email, rolandmannyspeaks@gmail.com. That's ROLANDMANNY speaks@gmail.com. Or they can even call me 508-965-4288. Again, that's 508-965-4288. And I'll talk to them about anything. I'll talk to them about nutrition because I feel if people can feel good on the inside and get their mind right, we can be unstoppable. So I'll help people any way they can. If they just want to talk, they need a word of positivity or whatever it is, I'll be happy to help anybody I can because my voice is going to change someone's life.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Thank you so much for being on this show. I really appreciate it. And I wrote down, when you take a hit, how are you going to respond?
Yeah.
I want you guys to ponder on that. How are you going to respond? I just heard about a young kid that's in high school who lost their grandmother one day and lost their uncle within the next week, and they were very close. And this young person is like on suicide watch because they feel like giving up on life because they feel like they have nothing else to live for. But they have life to live for. They have themselves to live for. And if they just understand who they are and what their purpose is, they can go on and help other people that's been through the same situations, because they're not the first and they're not going to be the last to lose someone back to back like that. So how are you going to take the hit when it comes to you? So that's something that I'll be pondering on today. For those that are watching, thank you so much for tuning in. We don't have any questions or comments, but this will be posted. So leave comments in the YouTube comment. If you want to get in contact with Roland, you've seen all the information that was up. Make sure you get in contact with him. He has a powerful story. And no, look, he was working for the system, for the government, and he quit. Most people hold on regardless. They don't care. They hold on. But he went out to pursue his passion. So make sure you guys always pursue your passion. And to get in contact with me, all you have to do is go to Google me. Go to Kama Speaks. You can find me all over the place. You see my name in the back, Kama Speaks, and you can find me all over social media. If you or you know somebody that wants to be a part of the show, you can email me at booking@kamaspeaks.com. That's booking@kamaspeaks.com. If you have a problem with that, just go to kama@kamaspeaks.com. And I would love to have you or another guest on the show. All right, with that said, remember what I always say, no matter what you do in life, always pursue your passion.